All right, so we've got the next section, which is on economic growth, and your learning target is that you can explain or identify and explain what causes economic growth. So we have 5 focus questions. First is, what's the difference between absolute real economic growth and per capita real economic growth? What's the purpose of the rule of 72? Do small differences in economic growth rates matter? What causes economic growth? And then why might some argue against economic growth? We have 3 key terms. We have absolute real economic growth, per capita real economic growth, and then human capital. So first is, what is economic growth? So absolute real economic growth is an increase in real GDP from one period to the next. And then per capita real economic growth is an increase in per capita real GDP from one period to the next. So per capita real GDP is real GDP that's divided by the population. Okay. Per capita real GDP growth and the rate of and the rule of 72. So the rule of 72, it states that this is the amount of time that is required to for any variable to double. Okay, so you take that variable and you divide it by 72, and then that will give you the growth rate. So it's 72 divided by the rate of return, and that equals the time for the investment to double. So there's a video you can watch.
Hey, Turtle.
Hey, no refunds, kid. Them's the breaks.
Don't worry, I get it. You may be a streetwise con man,
I prefer Con Turtle.
but when it comes to compound interest, you do know your stuff.
Go on.
The more time you give your compounding investments, the more money your money makes for you.
Interest earning interest on interest, as I always say.
What I want to know now is how my investment will sync up with my savings goal.
Uh-huh.
I need to figure out how long it will take to double my money if my interest rate is 3%.
Whoa, hold your horses, Purple Pants. This is big league stuff.
Well, can you figure it out?
The only way, and I mean the only way, to figure it out is to use this very complex, crazy math. You gotta use your x's and your logs and your bases. There's literally, and I can't stress this enough, literally no other way to calculate this or even estimate it.
Oh.
I can do it,
Oh?
but you'll have to shell out $20.
Oh, okay, I guess.
What about the rule of 72?
What?
The rule of 72!
Junior.
What's your interest rate again, Purple Pants?
3%?
Junior, the first rule of 72 is you don't talk about the rule of 72.
24 years. At 3% interest, it will take 24 years for your investment to double in value.
You did that so fast.
It's easy with the rule of 72. All you have to do is divide 72 by the annual rate of return. That's your interest rate. Yours is 3%. So, 72 divided by 3 is 24.
That's amazing. So if my interest rate is 6%,
72 divided by 6 is 12. It would take 12 years to double.
or 1.5%,
72 divided by 1.5 is 48. It would take 48 years to double.
I like this system better.
It's not as exact as the complicated math, but it's a very close approximation.
You are as adorable as you are financially knowledgeable. And you saved me $20.
In times of historically low interest rates, it's even more important to start investing early. I'm still a baby turtle, and even I'm earning compound interest.
So cute.
Would you look at that? Nap time.
Whoa.
Show's over. Come on, Junior. See ya.
Hey,
All right. So economic growth and a production possibility frontier. So you guys should remember PPFs. Remember, it's two goods in an economy that can be produced over a certain period of time. So using a PPF, you can show what absolute economic growth looks like. So an economy can grow from a point below the PPF because such resources, or some resources in the economy are used are unused. So a movement from a point that's below the PPF to a point on the PPF is evidence of economic growth. And then real GDP is higher at the point of the PPF than it is below the PPF. Okay, so here marked A. We talked about this. We said this was inefficiency. Then here you are. Anything along this line is efficient. But this is still growth. And remember, there's different things that can cause you to grow beyond this. It could be additional resources. It could be innovation. There's like a whole list of things. So when an economy already resides at the PPF, the only way for it to experience economic growth is by shifting the frontier to the right. And again, we talked about different ways that this could be done. And these are the factors that can shift you to the right. So you've got natural resources, or you find more of them, more labor, more capital, more human capital, more technological advances, or some sort of incentive. So natural resources means just what it sounds like. It's new resources that you can use to produce goods and services. Labor means more people, and those people can be used to produce more goods, or their productivity is increased, okay? So labor productivity it's your total output that you produce, the number of goods that you've made, divided by the hours that it takes you to produce the total output, okay? And your productivity will increase with things like education, experience, things like that, some sort of motivation. Capital, it's the capital investment can lead to increases in labor productivity, resulting in increases in output. So, for example, somebody's using an axe and you buy them a chainsaw. That's going to be faster, so that means that production is going to increase. Then you have human capital, and that's the knowledge and the skills that people acquire. So it's your experience. But human capital also includes things like honesty, their ability to be creative in coming up with solutions to problems, and then their perseverance, meaning their ability not to just, I can't do this, I'm done, and to keep going and figuring things out. Do not undervalue honesty, creativity, perseverance, because your employers don't. Then we have technological advances, which we've talked about. Usually these things are going to result in some sort of new capital good, which is going to create an increase in efficiency. Then we have incentives. This is usually, the biggest one is profit. Like if you do this, create more of something, you're going to make more money, and that's an incentive in and of itself. However, there are people that are worried about future economic growth. So there are people that are opposed to more or faster economic growth, and they argue that to do those things, to create that growth, is going to lead to more pollution, more factories, more people living in crowded cities, a more emphasis being placed on material goods over other things. And then there's social, psychological problems that come along with this. There's more drug use, there's more suicide, for example. But then there's also people that argue against this and say that there's actually no evidence that indicates economic growth is the cause of any of those problems that are listed above, and that economic growth instead will lead to more wealth, less poverty, in a society that's able to but support things like art, culture, things like that. And they are also able to protect their environment. So there's two different sides to the debate on economic growth. Okay, projections for the coming decades indicates that the economic power of developed nations like the United States and in North America and in Europe, that they will shrink as we move forward into the future when it's compared to the developing nations of Asia, specifically China, India, and Indonesia, the three countries that have the largest population. Okay, and that's that.